Halo, halo, tes, tes.
Halo Bu Rati, bisa dengar nggak?
Ya, bisa Pak.
Oh yeah. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good to
So,
know that.
what time is it in Malaysia?
It's almost 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Almost 4 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, so it's still 3 o'clock here.
3 o'clock. So some of our friends over here got a bit confused by the time, so they thought it was 3 o'clock. So they went in an hour.
Yeah, 3 o'clock in Surabaya. I mean, GMT
Yeah,
7, right? Yeah.
But I think you put in the GMT there, right?
Yeah, I put the the time zone in the poster. Yeah, so
which is a good thing. Yeah.
Jam 3 di Surabaya time. Waktu Surabaya.
How's Surabaya?
Very hot, as usual. Yeah.
Oh no, Penang is hot too. Pulau Pinang is hot too, so it's comparable with Surabaya.
Yeah, but I don't know. This month it's been wow. It's been so hot. It's been humid, very humid. You know that in the most Asian country, the humidity is so high, and so it's not only hot, but it's very humid. So you sweat all the time, which can be very tiring.
True.
Yeah, membuat lelah.
Like a month ago in Penang, but now is the rain has arrived finally. So unlike the West, we are happy to see the rain. We have the song, right? The rain is gone.
That song.
I can see it here again. The rain is gone. So we are happy the rain is here.
Reevany, salam dari Ibu Yuyun.
Salam kembali.
She sent you her regards.
How's she doing?
Sorry that she won't be able to attend this session because she's very tired, she said.
Oh, okay. Wonder why.
Ya, banyak menguji dan mengajar ya, from morning till afternoon. She said that. Very tired.
This is trying to finish off all the workload before Lebaran, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, next week, right? Everyone is looking forward. Yeah.
But over here, we cannot mudik. We cannot go back home.
No, it's prohibited. It's the civil servant. Yeah, we cannot visit to the pulang kampung ya, pulang kampung.
Tapi pulang kampung beda sama mudik kan?
Ya, itu untuk menyiasati. If you want to cheat the rules, then you said, saya tidak mudik, saya pulang kampung.
Anyone knows that now, Dia pulang kampung. Sini istilahnya balik kampung.
Balik kampung kalau di Malaysia ya.
Kalau bisa pulang kampung mudik ya. Pulkam.
Bagaimana di kampus USM? Full daring, full online atau it's mixed online and offline?
We are required to do online, but for me, some of my supervision I do it online, face to face, tatap muka ya.
Ya, betul.
Tatap muka ya. Kalau bahasa Indonesia tatap muka ya.
Tatap muka, it's like head to head. It means you will have a palm in your head, right? It will hurt you, tatap muka. It will hurt your face if you are doing tatap muka. Yeah, seperti itu. So yeah, I think in Unair it's the same. So we still required to do the online courses for all the courses that we have, and which is actually I don't know. What do you think? It's more tiring in.
It is more tiring.
Yeah, teaching online. It's lebih capek ya, lebih lelah daripada daripada tatap muka tadi.
Betul. Malahan we have to learn all the technicalities about online.
Yeah, as well. I know. Yeah.
All that. And I'm a bit critical of that approach to go fully online. But then just like anything else,
it's not healthy, right? It's not healthy for our mental health, I think. To
not healthy.
Yeah, you don't have like human connection.
Yes.
So it's not good for human, I think. This all online stuff all the time. It's not very good for us. Yeah.
Plus, I'm a bit old school, so although I believe in technology, but I'm like the old school. Go underneath the tree and then philosophize underneath the tree. What happened to that? What happened to that? That pedagogy.
Yeah, pedagogy. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. They should do that. Do more of that. They're becoming like robots, and robots are becoming like us.
Oh, we can't wait for the pandemic to be over. Yeah, it's been 2 years. Can you believe it? I mean,
2 years, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Tidak terasa, tapi sudah 2 tahun ya, tidak terasa.
Sama Surabaya, sudah lama nggak ke Surabaya saya.
Oh ya.
Ya, kota favorit saya gitu. Ya itu, sudah lama nggak makan sup untuk gelora Pancasila. Gitu.
Oh, enak sekali. I wonder if it's still there. I mean, if it's still open because of the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, many businesses, small businesses, especially. Has to
close.
Has to close down their business, which is
good thing that you have Gojek and GoFood and Grab.
Yeah, I will check if it's still there. I will check in my Gojek app if I can still order online sop buntut oxtail soup.
Gelora Pancasila, that's the.
Gelora Pancasila. Okay.
The ox is this size, so I don't wonder what ox is it. It's literally this big, Like,
yeah, and cheap, right?
Yeah,
cheap. I mean, in the standard of international, it's very cheap.
Yeah. Are you ready over there? Or?
Yeah. So actually, I just opened this to welcome you.
Okay.
Jadi saya sebelum saya serahkan kepada moderator, ini saudara Umar, Mas Umar ya, kita panggilnya Mas di sini ya. Mas Umar nanti akan memandu acara seperti yang sudah disepakati. So it's going to be a mixed, right? Mixed language. You are using either English or Bahasa and Malay as well. So gado-gado, right? Gado-gado is good, right? Yeah, enak. So we are going to use gado-gado language today. So first of all, I would like to welcome you, Dr. Reevany Bustami. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with all of us here at Unair. So I noticed maybe some of your colleagues or students are also present today.
Yeah, they are present.
Okay, thank you as well for the colleague or students of USM who also attend this session this afternoon. Ya, saya hanya ingin mengucapkan itu saja. Saya buka dan tadi sudah ya salam dari Ibu Yuyun dari untuk Pak Reevany dan kolega semua di USM. Saya harap kerjasama ini bisa berlanjut begitu di nanti ya. For the future, that we can have more collaborations between communication department, especially and USM in, I don't know, joint lectures or joint research or whatever. We can talk about it as well later on. Bagaimana kita bisa menjalin kerjasama yang nanti tentunya bisa kita arrange lebih lanjut seperti itu. Baik, saya pikir itu saja dari saya. Terima kasih sekali lagi saya ucapkan untuk kehadirannya dan berbagi ilmunya dengan kami semua pada sore hari ini. Saya kembalikan kepada moderator. Silakan Mas Umar. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bu Rati. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Communicating Trust and Transformative CSR guest lecture. Let me introduce myself. My name is Umar, a public relations officer and graduate student at Universitas Airlangga. And it is an honor for me to serve you today as a moderator. This guest lecture is organized by postgraduate in Media and Communication Studies of Universitas Airlangga. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we are delighted to have all of you today. And we do hope that all of us are safe and healthy during these uncertain and unprecedented times. And yes, we are here this evening to have a very interesting conversation, as this guest lecture aims to discuss about how the CSR has transformed the past years and the importance of communicating trust in adopting the CSR. And I would like to greet our honorable speaker. We have Dr. Reevany Bustami from Malaysia. Hello, Dr. Reevany.
Hello.
Okay, it's nice to have you today. So, seperti yang dikatakan oleh Bu Rati tadi, bahwa Dr. Reevany akan berbicara dalam bahasa gado-gado ya, teman-teman. Jadi, buat yang merasa lebih bangga dengan bahasa Indonesia, jangan khawatir karena nanti Dr. Reevany akan juga menyampaikan dalam bahasa Melayu. Dan kami sampaikan kepada teman-teman yang memiliki pertanyaan kepada pembicara, kami persilakan untuk nanti bisa diketik di kolom chat atau juga bisa nanti on cam di akhir sesi. Both English and bahasa Indonesia are acceptable. Jadi kami tunggu untuk pertanyaan dari teman-teman. Ladies and gentlemen, corporations are getting more attention from various parties related on how they contribute to empowerment and community development, not only focusing on profit. Up to now, the practice of CSR has transformed. However, it is still important to apply ethics in order to build relationships with stakeholders and conduct a sustainable development. Therefore, there comes two questions. Thus, the transformative CSR relevant to today's society, and how to communicate trust in CSR. And finally, it's up to the most awaited session because these questions will be answered by our honorable speaker. Sebelum kami mulai, mungkin izinkan kami untuk memperkenalkan pembicara pada siang hari ini. He is a faculty member and researcher at the Center for Public Research and International Studies, University Science Malaysia. He completed his PhD from the LSE, United Kingdom.
Suaranya disilang ya?
Organizational Sociology and Globalization. I'm sorry. And he is the founding advisor for both Malaysia, Indonesia, Nusantara Research Center, and has led various projects ranging from CSR, ethnicity, and future organizational transformation. He has also carried out research projects for some reputable organizations, including the UNDP. And ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Reevany Bustami. Okay, hello again, Dr. Reevany. Before we start our guest lecture, I would like to ask, how's life in Malaysia, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh, okay. How's life in Malaysia? I think life in Malaysia. Thank you very much, Saudara Omar, for that kind introduction. Good to see you there. Good to be with UNER again. By the way, Surabaya is my favorite city in Indonesia, I'm happy to be with you today. I was a visiting professor in UNER a couple of years ago, some time ago, so I enjoyed being there. I was with the School of Faculty of Faculty of Social Sciences. So if you're asking me how's Malaysia doing, and the COVID is a challenging time. I think a lot of people have been affected by this pandemic, but it has proven to be something that is challenging, and I thank God a lot of people are surviving. But we'll see what happens in the next couple of months or a year, because it seems like the numbers are actually increasing, not decreasing. And I'm not sure that people are ready to face the next wave, which is supposed to be more challenging, more serious than the previous one, to first, second, third wave, and fourth wave. So it is a time that is testing our resilience and our patience. Yeah, it is difficult now. But a lot of people who are of certain class might not feel it, but people of lower middle to lower income group brackets will feel the pinch. Right, so it is challenging. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Reevany. Since you are ready and all of the audiences are excited to hear from you, so time and room is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me and inviting me to this special occasion to be with your postgraduate communications department and with Faculty of Social Sciences in UNER. UNER is one of the top 5 universities in Indonesia. So I'm honored to be part of this event with UNER, Universitas Airlangga. As I said just now, I've spent some time in Surabaya and I've spent some significant time as well in UNER as a visiting professor, and many other occasions there as well. So I'm happy to be with you again, although this is through online communication. So today, our discussion today, our topic today, if I may go to the slides, okay, there, is on communicating trust and transformative CSR. I add the lessons from the past and present for Nusantara and beyond. For those of you who are not familiar with the term Nusantara, because I did invite a few people from international students as well, international colleagues as well. So Nusantara is the archipelago that is that's now known as more or less Southeast Asia. So it is something that a concept that has existed before the colonial rule, but it's been destroyed as a construct, and we in Sempris attempts to do here is to revive that vision of Nusantara that consists of Indonesia, Brunei, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and like this large space that's known as Nusantara, and it's a cultural space as well. So my research on CSR has been, I would say, a challenging one, because when I started to venture into CSR. I was the first. The course that we introduced in USM is the first course in CSR in Malaysia. And we were also the first one. And if you come to Sandbridge, you can take PhD in CSR. Already have, I think, 5 postgraduates who have graduated with the CSR. 4 of them PhD. One is in Indonesia, 3 others is in Malaysia. Another one is from China. So so it is. I remember when I started to teach CSR. In fact, I have a student who wanted to do CSR with me, and she was a special officer of the minister at that time, and the minister was in charge of consumer affairs. And I asked her to ask the minister about his view of CSR. But the minister, by the way, is still a minister in current cabinet. And he said, "What is CSR? Ceras Sugar Refinery." So they did not know what CSR is, and he was in charge of consumer affairs, right? But now we talk about CSR, and people know what CSR is, more or less, right? Corporate social responsibility. So now it's easier to talk about CSR. It's easier to venture and discuss CSR, right? But I'm not just a student of CSR. I'm also a critic of CSR. So I'm not here as person who promotes CSR blindly, but here as a person who studies CSR, examines CSR. Although I'm also responsible for the CSR, the first CSR committee founded in Penang as well. So let's start with our first slide. I'm asking you to pause for a second and ponder. What have we done to our world, to our communities, to our environment, to ourselves? Where are we racing towards? Where are we going with this whole development idea? The next slide. What is happening to our river? Look at what we have done to our river. It's polluted. Almost all big cities in Southeast Asia, right? Malaysia included, by the way, but are polluted. By the way, today I have other friends from Indonesia, students who I'm supervising as well. One is Mas Muzakir, who's teaching in UNESA, Surabaya, right behind me, Mas Muzakir there. And across me is Iko from Banten, studying on Halal and Toiban. And across me, who is the Chief Technology Officer, I call him, Raji, Mas Raji from UMM Malang. So I'm surrounded by Indonesian students. All right, let's go to the next slide. What's happening to our river? We kill our own fish, our rivers, our oceans. What and who's next, right? Who's responsible for all this? Right. The next slide. Okay. And this is not an extraordinary situation, extraordinary occurrence. We see stories of fish dying every now and then, right? The next slide. What type of development are we pursuing? I'm asking that question now. We must ask the question. Where is this road taking us to? Right? Who is responsible for this destruction? Is this what we call development? That we destroy the forest, we destroy our planet, we chop down trees, and we call it development? Right? And the next one. So who is responsible? No. That's like enters CSR. Enters CSR. This is where CSR comes in, right? But what is CSR? What is CSR? CSR is corporate social responsibility. It's about responsibility. So companies taking up their responsibility. So Now people complaining about the destruction, the distress, the development that is actually destroying the earth, destroying communities. So the companies are coming in. They said, well, let's take up this responsibility to help the community, to help the environment, to help the people, to help the nation, right? So next, but what is happening with CSR? Are companies becoming more responsible? There's a big question mark there. Are companies becoming more responsible with CSR? Next. So where is this? This is like a super-sized mind. This is, where is this? This is 2 kilometers deep, right? Where in the world is this? See, the development is going underground, 2 kilometers underground. This is, by the way, the next slide. Next slide. This is, by the way, is in Tembagapura in Papua. It's the largest gold mine in the world, right? Carried out some research in Papua. I met some people over there. It seems like they feel that they are being cheated. And mostly it's directed to the government, but we know behind all this is also a big company, right? A big company that has disproportionately exploited the Papua, and the people say that if the gold, the revenues from the gold, right, that is being mined from Papua are given to them, they'll be financially independent, not just them, but the children of the children. So they are resentful. Many are resentful. And if you look at the whole resistance, a whole movement in Papua that is fighting back, is very much because of the resentment of the development, of the capitalist-led development. So this is what's happening with CSR. Right? And if you look at CSR as a practice, right? Now there's reporting system for CSR. Now the companies with the best reports, the thickest reports, are the companies that are the most exploitative. These are the mining companies. This is the timber companies. The oil companies. They have the best reports, right, of CSR. This is what's happening with CSR. The next slide. Is this the kind of work that we want in our society? Rummaging through the rubbish, looking for food, looking for things that can be recycled. Why do we create such a waste? So much waste that we create. Is this socially responsible? Next. What's happening to our families, our children, and to the children of our children? People lying on the street, right? Should we allow this to happen? And it is happening in cities throughout Southeast Asia, let alone the world. I remember, by the way, I wanted to do management, business management when I started my first degree. And I went to the States. And the biggest issue of United States at that time was homelessness. So I said, how could the richest country in the world have millions and millions of homeless people? And when I continue to do my PhD in UK, in London, right? Again, I see homeless people. My PhD was in London School of Economics. If you go down the halls, right? Go down the buildings from LSE, you see people begging for money. Spare some change, please. Spare some change, please. On the streets of London, right? And that's a contradiction. The richest, and this is the center of finance, right? The financial center of the world, and you have the poorest people, like on the streets. Is this development that you want? Is this the success of businesses, right? Next. And how many times have we looked away? How many times have we walked away from problems of society, from problems of poverty, from problems of destruction, right? too many times, right? Too many times. And we must ask ourselves, is this the development? Is this the life that we, you, and I wanted? Is this the kind of life that we want? Are the companies and the people part of the solution? Or more likely, they're part of the problem? We built these big, tall buildings, right? In cities throughout Southeast Asia, in KL, in Jakarta, in Surabaya, right? We call them development. We call it development, right? Is this development that we want? You know, do we need another mall? We built, you know, Surabaya, excuse me, right? But I'm going to say this. In Surabaya, we have TP, right? TP 1, Tunjangan Plaza, there's a mall. TP 1, TP 1, and then you build TP 2, then we build TP 3, we build TP 4, we build TP 4. How many TPs do we need? How many Tunjangan Plaza do we need, right? Is this the kind of development that we want? Is this the kind of development that would wipe out poverty? This is the kind of development that will bring out well-being. This is the kind of development will increase, enhance our quality of life. The answer is no, right? And next. So with destruction comes distrust. With destruction, with distress, with poverty, right, comes distrust. People become distrustful. They distrust the companies. They distrust the government. So is this what's happening with CSR? And the so-called responsible companies behind the CSR, right? All right. Quite recently, we published together with my students as well, and we published a book on CSR Islam. Some of the presentation today will be coming from points from this book. So I will reflect from time to time about CSR Islam, and but what I want to do is to connect to the principles underlying what we have written, and then we'll talk about the larger context of CSR, right? So how do we communicate trust? This is what the presentation is about. And how do we create transformative CSR, right? Now, if you look at the transformative CSR process, right, the whole idea of communicating trust will fail unless we start from the beginning. Because responsibility, if you break it into its major components, right? Companies, organization starts with responsibility in being. So the intent, the intention, the niat, the purpose, right? The thinking, the paradigm of operating, the paradigm of operations must be responsible, must be coming from a paradigm of responsibility. Bermula dengan niat, ya. Semuanya bermula dengan niat. Ya. Niat is a word in bahasa Indonesia, Malaysia, which means intention. What's the intention of this organization? The raison d'être, the reason of being, the reason of existence. So at the beginning of all organization, of all businesses, is the intention. So this must be the beginning of CSR, the beginning of transformative CSR process. If we talk about trust without talking about the purpose of organization, we will be telling lies, right? So we must start with the purpose. Second, the responsibility in doing. So by having the right purpose, having the right paradigm of doing things, then we must carry out responsible practices. And this is where CSR is about, right? To translate responsible intention, ethical intention, moral, spiritual, ethical, good intention, good purpose, good mission, good vision into practices, responsible processes, responsible products, hiring the right people to do the right thing, implementing, establishing the right processes. So this is the other part. And then we talk about responsibility in communicating, meaning conveying about the purpose, about the people, about the processes, about the products and the portfolio of the company truthfully, right? Truthfully. So there is responsibility in communicating, and you find it hard to communicate trust without having responsible business practices, without having responsible purposes, right? So this is the transformative CSR process. So we must transform CSR first before we talk about communicating trust, right? Next. So right now hujan yang deras di luar sana sangat hujan lebat kalau pasal di sini. It's raining dogs, cats and dogs outside. Right? Sama hujan lebat. Ya? Sama juga bisa hujan lambat dirayakan. Kan sering dengar hujan deras. Oh, deras. Kan? Jarang saya dengar hujan lebat. Kalau di Malaysia hujan lebat. Kalau deras itu the speed of the rain. Right? Lebat is the size of the rain. Okay, so it begins with purpose. Communicating trust begins with transformative CSR. So it is hard, it's difficult, almost impossible to communicate trust, yeah, unless there is a process of transformation in the CSR. So we start with the purpose, and I'll be talking about different aspects of communication. I will focus on 1, 2, and 3. If time permits, I will go beyond that, right? Process. So it's about communicating purpose, it's about communicating product, it's about communicating about the people, it's about communicating about process and how it connects with planet, it's about communicating with portfolio and communicating with public. So this is the 7 communication trusts that we'll be discussing. But I'll be focusing the first 3. We will have time when we go beyond that, right? This is what J. Abraham talked about: under promise, over deliver. So number 1 in CSR transformation is about purpose, niat, intention, mission, vision. Why the company, why the organization exists? Raison d'être, right? In a French word there. So now, CSR generally has been externally focused. So when people talk about CSR, what do we think about? People giving up checks, going to some orphanage, painting the walls. Kita pergi sana, kita membantu orang anak yatim, kita kasih makan kepada gelandangan, kita pergi ke rumah orang miskin, bina bangunkan rumahnya. So we go to the poor, handing out money, handing out food. That's usually the orientation about CSR, right? About reaching out. But what begins CSR begins with reaching in. So it is not often, too often, it is not anchored to the core of the organization. Right? The core of an organization must be having the right purpose first. So CSR is often not linked to the organization raison d'etre, the organization reason for existence, and is often related to the most important stakeholders. For companies, the most important stakeholders is the shareholders. Now they talk about stakeholders, right? Companies and Michael Porter, the most cited scholar in the world, right? We'll talk about the shared value and all that, right? But, and if I draw from our book CSR Islam, the number 1 partner is the Almighty. The number 1 partner is God. And if we connect to the higher purpose, right? We are connecting to the most powerful part of CSR. And that is the most transformative part of CSR. And I will demonstrate that in the presentation. And the essence of true success lies with the higher purpose of the organization. And this is where CSR must begin. Changing the core, changing the heart, and communicating the heart from heart to heart, right? So where do we begin? We said we begin with the golden heart, with God and good intentions in our heart. Begin with the golden heart, with God and good intentions in our heart. At the beginning, in the middle, at the end of every day, every week, every month, every quarterly, every year. So it always be looking at why are we doing this? Why are we establishing this organization? What are we doing? For whom are we doing? What higher purpose are we serving? That is transforming the purpose, right? Centering the purpose to a higher purpose, right? What am I talking about? Yeah, Before you go to the next slide, let's talk about cosmetics, right? If we talk about cosmetics, right, what is the sin of cosmetic industry? What is the sin of cosmetic industry? Oftentimes we will talk about animal testing. Before you use that mascara, that thing that put in your eyes, right? You test it on animals, on rabbits, kelinci, bahasa Malaysia is arnab. Kita uji dulu di mata arnab, mata kelinci itu, right? Antara rabbit itu kalau tidak buta, and then we go to the monkeys, right? Kera, right? Monkeys, they don't, maybe 8 of 10 monkeys go blind, and we got to improve the product further. Improve, and then maybe 5 do not get blind, and improve until only maybe 1 or 2, and then okay, we're ready to testing. And that's what's happening with animal testing in the cosmetic industry. For the sake of beauty, we hurt animals, we kill animals. But then somebody, an anthropologist, by a woman that thought about this animal cruelty, she designed a different company. She searched for a new soul of cosmetic industry, right? And established a new line of cosmetic product. And suddenly it thrives. What's the name of this company? Next. The Body Shop. Body Shop is an example of a truly CSR company. It begins with the heart of the company, right? What does she say? Her name is Anita Norodik, by the way. She says, I want to work for a company that contributes to and is part of a community. I want something not just to invest in. I want something to believe in. So she created a company, a cosmetic company that is free from animal testing. So it's against animal testing, right? What happens? She created a product line that is known as Body Shop, but she not only succeeds as a company, right? But she shamed a lot of other cosmetic companies and transformed the industry. So her CSR ethical leadership transformed the cosmetic industry. So a lot of other companies become followers to her because they are being shamed. But all this while they harm animals with the realization, and maybe they say they want to have profit as well, right? We see a whole host of other companies follow suit, follow suit Body Shop. And this is the power of the higher purpose, power of connecting with the Almighty, power of connecting with the spirituality of humanity. Spirituality, when we bring God into the company, God will be your number one partner, and you will never fail. You will never lose. Right? And you know what she said about CSR? She said, CSR, I don't think it is working. Because CSR has been hijacked by all these public relations companies. So you all in corporate comms, please listen to this. We should not want to be slaves of this public relations company who exploit CSR and suddenly lose out the real meaning of CSR. We must go and transform the corporate communication. We must transform the public relations companies to make them become more ethical, more moral, more sensitive to the needs of the community, to the needs of those who are being exploited, including the voiceless animals, right? So if you look at the whole idea of state of being, responsible being, right? And the next one, next slide. So CSR, first transformation is about transformation of the purpose. It's about recentering the purpose. Begin with the golden heart and communicate the heart. So when you have that purpose, you communicate the purpose. What your company is about. What is the company is championing. What is the ethical purpose of the company. You communicate it from your heart to another heart. Communicate. And this is a more powerful form of communication, more powerful form of corporate communication. We are appealing to the ideals, to the higher purpose. This is more powerful. So we must have that golden heart and communicate the golden heart, right? Then we are talking about communicating trust. So that is the first one, talking about the second one. So the second one is second CSR transformation is about product, putting the purpose into the product. Product is, when we talk about product transformation and we communicate about the product, we want to communicate it truthfully. We must communicate both the positive and the negative. And when you are truthful, right, you build trust. When you communicate truthfully, you are building trust with your customers, with your community, as a corporate citizen, you are a trustworthy corporate citizen. And that is a powerful thing to have. Let's go to the idea that Prophet Muhammad SAW is known as an Al-Amin, meaning the person who is the trustworthy one, the person who always speaks the truth, right? He is, by the way, by profession, a trader, a businessman. So what's interesting about the story of Prophet Muhammad is that when he trades, traded, a long time ago, right, he would state the cost price. So when he sells a phone, right, it's my phone, right? He would state, I bought this phone at where they say for 100,000 rupiah. 100,000 rupiah. Bisa dapat enggak? Ini bisa dapat ya, bahan bekas ya. Ataupun di mana tuh di tempat yang preman-preman tuh ada apa nama? Pasar apa? Pasar malam. Pasar apa namanya? Wonokomo. Oke, nggak tahu lah. Bisa dapat. He would state, yeah, this is the cost price. I bought it for 100,000 rupiah. I bought it for $100 or something, whatever. And it's up to you how much you want to give, right? So people think, well, this is crazy. Now you cannot do that, right? But you know what? During this time, when he states the price, he's being honest, right? And not only that, he will tell the bad and the good side of things. He was being truthful. He's being marketing for the product, but he markets the bad and the good as well. So they say, if you talk about this right now, is that possible? Well, he became one of the most successful traders. So successful that a woman, a rich woman, probably billionaire by today's standard, right? Say, well, this is beautiful, right? I'm going to marry this man. His name is Siti Khadijah. And that was Prophet Muhammad's wife. Because he found an honest business, honest trader there, an Al-Amin. And he became the prophet later on. Now you think, this is the story of prophet. How is it possible? Well, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, right? Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu. If you go to Utah, one of the states of the United States, right? Utah is known for the Mormon community. Mormons is one sect of Christianity, or some Christians don't accept that as part of a sect, right? Or the are you okay? Okay, all right, okay. You go to state Utah, there are stores seperti Alfamart gitulah, Alfamart lagi, Indomart, Alfamart, 7-Eleven gitulah kan. Itulah store that they sell at cost price. And if you want to donate, go ahead. And for the poor, they can come and take for free. So people know that they're coming and contributing. And you know what? They actually get more than a normal supermarket. They will get more profits from the supermarket. Because I know this is sincere, this is the real cost price. I will give 10%, 20%, 30% more. And the whole concept of being honest or being truthful is such a powerful concept, right? And if you look at one case, another case, right, which is not, I didn't note down here, right? Taxi drivers, this is before there is Gojek, before there's Grab car, I don't know, before there's Uber, right? If you go to cities in not sure about throughout the world, but cities, Southeast Asia, right? You often get cheated by the taxi drivers. Right? Taxi drivers will bring you around, charge you exorbitant price after that, right? Dia bawa kita mutar-mutar satu kota itu kan, jadi kita pun pusing-pusing. Kalau pusing di sini maksudnya mutar-mutar. Jadi tapi kalau pusing di Indonesia maksudnya pusing kepala gitu kan. Sudah macet diputar-putar lagi, bawa kita ke sana, bawa kita ke sini kan. Dan charge-nya luar biasa. But then somebody saw that as a problem. They created a taxi called, established a taxi called Bluebird. So Bluebird is a company that makes truthfulness as its business practice. And what happens? People trust Bluebird and they become the most well-liked taxi, so much so that people like me coming from overseas, if I go to Surabaya, this is before Grab car and all that, yeah, I would take Bluebird. Although Bluebird would charge a bit higher, but I know Bluebird doesn't cheat, doesn't lie. So that is the power of truthfulness. And if you forget anything else, take these 2 points, right, about purpose and product, about being truthful about your product, right? And the story that before this. Right? And there's also the story of Abdurrahman bin Auf. Abdurrahman bin Auf is the richest man during Prophet Muhammad time, right? Now his concept of business is trust through low price, but truthful about quality. He would sell camels, but he sell camels at the cost price, right? He only, because everyone who has a camel will need a rope to tie the camel, he sells the rope. So he actually sells the rope, he doesn't sell the camel. But people know the camel is of the same quality, is being truthful about the quality. So what happened? He became the richest person in Mecca and Medina. Right? He became the richest person. So the whole idea of being truthful is a powerful concept in CSR. And we do not see here the concept very much. It's being promoted in CSR. And yet being socially responsible about product information is actually an important thing, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in corporate communication, you ask your bosses, how is the marketing promoting CSR? Are you being truthful? Do you promote the bad and the good at the same time, right? Or are you promoting only the good, right? That is not being truthful, right? And how many Muslims, how many non-Muslim, how many faith-based communities promote their products truthfully? I challenge them, right? To promote products truthfully. Right? But you see what happens if you do not promote truthfully. If you go to the next slide. They happened in China. This is what it was during the melamine incident, where they put melamine. There were companies that put melamine. Melamine is a type of, you can call it plastic, right? They put in formula milk for the children to drink, ya. Susu untuk bayi minum itu, untuk menaikkan konten proteinnya gitu. So they increase the content of protein. So when when you measure it definitely higher in content of protein. What's the effect of it? Babies die. Babies die. Hundreds more become sick, right? Damaged almost permanently. The kidneys get damaged, right? What happens? And this is what happens. Maybe are not truthful. In fact, we cheat, right? Using other things, using other methods of cheating. And this happens almost throughout all the industries, right? These industries do not practice socially responsible product development, product content, product disclosure of information. But you know what? The impact is not just for that particular company. The impact, the next slide please. The impact is a whole host of other products and companies are being affected by the bad reputation of this company that is poisoning the formula milk for the babies. A whole host of companies. This happens a decade ago, right? So a lot of other companies say, product from China, we got to be careful. We cannot trust the Chinese product, right? So it affects a whole host of companies. A lot of companies being affected by this bad reputation, right? Kita ada peribahasa di Nusantara ya, kerana nila sedikit rosak susu sebelanga, kan? Because of that little dye affecting the whole pot of milk, right? That's more or less the translation of it. And it didn't stop there, right? FDA, what is FDA? Federal Drug Authority Agency, right? Of United States, established its presence in China. Now we have colonization happening again, right? They come and colonize us again because we do not govern ourselves, right? They come back to govern us. They come back to regulate us. This is what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. So Federal Drug Agency Authority, right, coming to China through a different office, right? They want to monitor, right? And this is what happened when we do not have socially responsible practices in our product development, in our product production, right? And that is sad. That is sad. The next slide. But you know what? When we are truthful about our wrongdoings, our downsides, right? And like in this case where they actually disclose the complaints, disclose their problems, right? And people develop that as a service apartment company in UK. People begin to trust them. Well, this company tells the truth. And what happens? People begin to trust, people begin to want to deal with the company even more. So the idea of disclosing information, the idea of being corporate communication that communicate truthfulness, the negative as well as positive, has its strength. And the strength is about building trust, right? Next slide. So the whole, and there's a hadith about this, right? That you will not get God's blessings until and unless two-person parts, the seller and the buyer parts, by disclosing the good and the bad. Right? So we must practice that. And you must be thinking about this. But again, are we discussing this in our universities? Are we discussing this in our courses? But is this type of marketing taught in SOM, School of Management? Is it being taught? Or are we teaching only, promote only the positive? When you write only the positive, right? No, do not disclose the negative, right? In fact, we suppress the negative, right? When we communicate public relations, we go with the positive. Now, I like to share with you one little story, right? My father-in-law is a chairman of one of established banks in Southeast Asia, and then the banks is also in Indonesia, right? And we actually have access to the company, and we carried out some research, CSR research company, and we have the public relations officer speaking there. The public relations officer did not disclose, did not want to speak truthfully, right? Only talk about the positive. And by the way, we have access. We come from the chairman daughter. My wife also is a professor as well in management, right? And we went together, and again, so corporate communication has become the professional corporate liars, right? Public relations have become public liars. We do not want to have this. We do not want to define our life based on lies, right? That's bad, man. That's really bad. And this is not ethical and it's not socially responsible, right? So the second transformation is a transformation about the product itself, right? The third transformation is the third CSR transformation is about people. So it's about purpose. It's wrong to spell a bit there. It's about putting purpose together with people. We bring in the right people, bring out the best in people, communicate with your people, communicate about your people. What do I mean by this? And you will fly. Like just this baby, she's flying right now, right? Okay. So the next slide. I'll give you one example, and I carry out this research in Surabaya itself. It's a beautiful story. in Surabaya, right? And I'll show you the product that I bought. It's a story about tiara, right? It's a story about tiara. Company called Tiara. It's a tiara handicraft. It's a company established by Titik Winarti, right? It's Tiara Handicraft. Tiara Handicraft hire mainly persons with disabilities, right? Persons with disabilities, and also youngsters from outside of the city, and they come in. They have little space for them to stay, and they're trained to become a craftsman and craftswoman, right? And they build craft items using recycled materials. So this is the thing. I'm giving an example. I bought this one from Surabaya from Tiara Handicraft, right? And it has lasted me more than 10 years, right? And you can see it's old, but it is strong. No one builds bags like this, right? But these folks, they build that strong wood from recycled materials, and they are persons with disability, right? So what happens is social responsibility that is people-centered. Ibu Titi hired them. I went to them. I was at the time researching together with a bunch of Perbanas, STI Perbanas students. Right, I went there. I see the machines. They get CIMB Niaga to partly sponsor part of the CSR, and also BNI juga ya, Bank Negara Indonesia ya, itu partly sponsor them as well. So and so they have recycled paper. Single mothers, persons who are disability, youth from the disadvantaged, from rural, working together, putting together products, and it's a beautiful enterprise. This is socially responsible. This is a story about the people, right? This is the tiara story, right? And there's also a tiara there.
She's the one I said before.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. That's Tiara Andini.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is interesting. Okay, so this is the story of Tiara, and this is a success story. It has changed people. It has changed mindsets, and it's a powerful CSR story to tell. And it's from Surabaya, right? So if you in communications go there and tell the story to the world, yeah, tell the story to the world. They have these beautiful people, really hardworking people. Kompak sangat luar biasa yang mereka di difabel kerjasama menggunakan kain-kain perca dan membuat tas-tas yang luar biasa, bukan saja tas, macam-macam yang lain juga ada di situ ya. So this is a great story to tell. Now let's share with you another story from Indonesia as well. This is Finger Talk. Finger Talk is a restaurant, right, established by Mbak Disa, and hiring only persons with disability. Well, not hire only, but there are people who you go there, you got to use your fingers to talk, right? What's that? And she has won awards. She has won awards in Japan. She was being recognized. They met President Obama. It's an amazing story. It's from Tangerang, right? And it's opened up branches as well, elsewhere as well. So again, it's a story about assembling people with disabilities who have problems with speech. They're mutes, right? And so you go there, you can also learn how to communicate, and you say, my name is Reevany, you can say that, right? You learn that, and you have a great experience going there. And this is another story where you bring in the right people, and you bring out the best in the people, and you see them laughing and using sign language, and you communicate with the people, and you communicate about the people, and that is transformative. That is transformative. And then when you communicate about this, you're communicating trust. Right? So next, okay, the fourth transformation is the fourth transformation is about the process and planning. Right? In fact, planet is transformation number 7, but I connect it with the process as well, bringing the purpose. The idea here is to show the production process. Right? You want to make it transparent, and you want to communicate the transparency. The communication of trust depends on the transparency. How transparent are you in the or business production processes, right? And this has become a global movement. Transparency has become a global movement in the form of traceability. The next slide. So this is one of the certification. It's called the Wolfmark certification. Wolfmark certification gives you one of the things that's more important is the traceability. So what it means is this. See, I suppose I bought this thing here, right, the face mask. I can trace the production process, the supply chain of this process, right? Who produces the wool up to the sheep, to the farm. You trace the production process and you communicate the production process, the information, right? This is corporate communication, by the way, yeah? Throughout the supply chain process. It's just like in Islam, we talk about how we maintain the authenticity of hadith of Prophet Muhammad's sayings, right? It's through the traceability process. Is the silsilah, riwayat, the perawi. We even check who the perawi is, who is narrating, the narrator and the narration is being verified and certified, right? So the whole process of certification is a process that is socially responsible. And we want to show, and people want to know, is this, am I exploiting somebody? The whole idea in the story of blood diamonds, right? Blood diamonds, I didn't put it in. The diamonds that are being sold on the streets of London are sometimes known as blood diamonds because they exploit children to mine the diamonds, right? And exploit, beat them up. And then there's a movie called Blood Diamonds. Leonardo DiCaprio, right, is the actor in this one. Right? You know, people die. Right? So the idea of communication, the supply chain, the transparent supply chain has become part of socially responsible practice, and it is part of CSR. Right? So next, so another company called Houdini. Houdini is in Spain, Sweden, and when my research in Sweden, I'm fascinated by the Swedish people, the Swedish philosophy rather. The Swedish has this philosophy of lagom, which means not too much, not too little, just enough, just right. And if you see the minimalism, they do not take too much, right, from what they need. Right? So they have a balanced approach. Right? So Houdini is a company that practices sustainability. It's also the first world company that completely practices circular outdoor sustainable apparel supply chain. Right? So they recycle their clothes. They also use reusable clothes. They also use renewable products. Right? So you can actually recycle the whole thing. They go to the extent of next. Also, we look at what they say. Sustainability is the heart of everything we do. For us, there is no contradiction between sustainability and good business. It is essential in the long run. We constantly work to transform our business, our industry, and our society. So they do education, they carry out education. And they transform the industry, right, to become more sustainable. And they have even roadmaps, right? The next slide. All right. They have roadmaps up to 2066, right? And this is an example of their roadmaps. They want to, by year 2022, right, all products are made from recycled or recyclable or renewable and naturally biodegradable fibers. And if we talk about biofuel vehicles that use biofuel, right? Sweden is way ahead. Their public transport uses biofuel. So if there's a model of society, a Western model of society to look at, to understand, to study, it will be the Scandinavian, the Sweden, the Norwegian, Finland, right? In fact, the happiness index is among the highest in the world. In fact, the highest, right, of these countries, right? Happiness index, right? So quality of life is higher too. Right? Now, next, right? Let's bring it to our world. Who's going to use all these products? Let's talk about different part of the process in CSR, right? The next slide. This is a principle of fairness which we talk about in our CSR Islam book, right? The fifth principle. And by the way, there's also certification of fairness. It's called fair trade. Fair trade is a certification that looks at the fair distribution of wealth in the supply chain. So there is no exploitative practices on the one end towards the other end. So farmers, fishermen are not being exploited. They don't buy coffee beans at the low price, extremely low price, and then sell it at an extremely high price. You know, like we see at some of these coffee shops, right? They exploit the farmers and they exploit the consumers. That is not fair trade. But fair trade is about fair distribution of wealth in the supply chain. And being fair is one of the important principles of CSR. Right? And we talk about CSR, we seldom hear about all these things. Right? Companies want to hide about distribution of wealth because companies, the shareholders are extracting the most of the company's profits. Right? There is no fairness in distribution of wealth in companies, oftentimes, not all, right? So when we talk about transformation of the process, transformation of the production process, this includes the production, the transformation of the distribution process. How fair are we doing this? And corporate com graduates and those business graduates and those who want to transform companies, start creating your CSR certification, your own CSR certification. Can we certify companies are being fair to the employees? Let's do that. Just like we have breastfeeding friendly hospitals. We have that logos. We have logo factory. We should have logos, different logos. So for us in communication fields, we should be thinking of different ethical logos and start using shame and fame approach to transform companies. One of my projects when I was still teaching the undergraduates last time was in School of Social Sciences as well. I get them to think of having their own blogs and to study single issue companies, single issue research. So one of them carried out research on toilet cleanliness, and then she gave ranking. So one person did this. She gave ranking and stars, and she put it on her blog. And so powerful that her work is that the state government called her and communicated with the contractor, and you know what? Companies are afraid of being shamed. And so if we have the shame and fame approach in our CSR certification, right, and that would transform them, because companies, they are not, they have their own aspiration. The aspiration is often profit, right? But not all companies are like that, right? But they have one common denominator. They're afraid that their reputation are being tarnished. They're afraid of being shamed. So there's a powerful concept to use in CSR, right? So we should be thinking about that, how to develop certification, and so we can have person with disability friendly certification. And we certify malls, right? And by the way, one of the students did that as well. Group of students did that. We can certify that. We can do all kinds of certification, and you can start your own groups through your faculty, you can start your own team to do certification, right? So, and there are many types of things we could do. And this is about transforming the process, not just the product, transforming the process as well. Okay, next. Mas Umar, kalau terlebih waktu ni, tolong bilang ya.
You have 19 more minutes.
How many more minutes?
19.
19, 19. Okay.
19.
Thank you. Terima kasih. Nuhun. CSR transformation number 5, transformation of the portfolio. This is heartwarming. It's a story in Vietnam, right? It's the employer of the year. The company is called Swan Trang. And the person, then that's me, a long time ago. Behind me is the tree. There's the CEO of the company. So when you transform the portfolio, everything is CSR, right? And we are here for them. What does it mean? This is a company that has its own happiness manager. The happiness manager, right? She will be in charge to help the company become happy. And if you go to this company, you see little smiley faces, smiley face, right? Stuck on the wall, stuck on the of various people there, right? And I said, what is this? So every time somebody does good to somebody else, right, that person will get a smiley face from the person. So you want to have that is part of their job, the way they appraise people by looking at smiley faces. So you're creating an environment of high energy, high emotion, happiness environment, right? And this place, this it's not a big company, right? It's a small company, one of the SMEs, UMKM lah, UMKM, usaha micro sedar KM, mikro kecil dan menengah ya. Just about 1 or 2 weeks ago, I was presenting UMKM di IAIN Tulung Agung gitu. Jadi ini satu kasus yang saya angkat. If you go to this company, you find that you can go and you find places to bathe, right? Not just for the adults, for babies. So it's a family-friendly company. The staff can bring their babies there and bathe babies there. And I see staff doing that. I was surprised. Wow, well, you know, they're friendly. The Satpam security office is being given scholarship to continue their studies. Right? And the people there are given scholarship to continue their studies. I brought them, you know, they brought a bunch of them over here in Malaysia, in Penang. Every now and then we meet them as well to see how businesses are run in Penang. And some of them become successful entrepreneurs and they left company. But then during special occasion, which is this occasion, is one of the spring festival in Vietnam. So our coincidentally was there. They come back and they love this company and they become a network of companies that support this company, right? But you know what? I tell you something. They turn CSR into a mission. They have this book, right? And this book is about stories of different people that they have helped, right? Through their CSR projects, right? They help the blind, they help the cataract cases, right? So that people can see again and all that, right? And when they hire new employees, they will tell them, they show this book, right? This is the reason we are here. We are here for them. We are here to help them. So they do CSR, they don't do media coverage. They keep it as a secret. So it's a very powerful corporate communication. It's internal corporate communication. It gives purpose, meaning to the employees. I'm here to help these people. We are here to help these people. They turn social responsibility into a mission. They turn the social responsibility into some form of loyalty, employee loyalty, attraction, right? So you see how powerful when you transform the portfolio of the company, the total portfolio of the company into CSR. And by the way, we see Dr. Tree standing at the back there. I was giving the talk. He was not giving the talk. I was giving the consultancy there. And every time I spoke one sentence, he will speak about one paragraph. I said, Dr. Tree, how come you have to translate my English into so many words? No, he said, because what you said corresponds to what we have over here. So I get inspired. So he's like the enthusiastic kind of, the very energized kind of CEO. You know what? The last time I met him was through Facebook. He has his head bald. I said, what happened? Botak, palanya dibotakin gitu kan. Gondol, digondolin. I said, what happened to you, Dr. Tree? Yeah, he became a monk. Jadi biksu. He became a monk. He sold his company. So he's like, wow, it's like amazing. So this is an amazing story. And he's our Employee of the Year in Vietnam. He was quoted as Employee of the Year. So this is CSR transformation. So once we have this story, you communicate, it builds trust. Because the people will tell the good story. You have the families telling the good story. You have the babies telling the good story too. Right? You have the whole thing, the whole gambit of CSR portfolio to share, right? And the final one, CSR transformation number 6, is transformation of service to the public. Empower and enrich the community around you. If you do not recognize that person, that is Azrul Ananda. He's the son of Dahlan Iskan, the former minister of BUMN. BUMN will be the person in charge of Badan Usaha Milik Negara, ya, kalau bahasa Indonesia. He's the minister who is in charge of government-linked corporations, basically, right? Government-linked corporations. In Malaysia, we call it GLCs, right? Or public state-owned companies, basically. But this one is Jawa Post, one of the most widely circulated newspapers in Indonesia. They established the first local TV station in Indonesia. It's called JTV, right? People in Surabaya will know that, right? So they were telling me, I was researching about CSR, right? So they're telling me at that time was Jogja, ada Gunung Merapi yang meledak dan sebagainya. There was a volcano eruption in Yogyakarta. They were telling me that. And then I went to the studio, to the JTV studio, and they were telling me about what they're doing. They're having this Pojok Pitu, where they actually read news in Bahasa Jawa Timur, in Eastern Javanese language, right? And I said, you know what? This is actually your CSR. Because by promoting the Eastern Javanese language, they have empowered the Jawa Timur people to have more confidence in Jawa Timur language, right? Because Jawa Timur language, right, the Eastern Javanese, is perceived, it's not necessarily true, is perceived to be a rougher, a harsher, a rougher language, right? Or language of the ruffians compared to the Jawa Tengah, to the central Java, which is the Kraton, the higher, the more refined, more halus bahasanya, more refined Javanese language. But with Pojok Pitu, the people become more empowered. People feel more confident with their own language. And what happens is that they also begin to document and begin to collect and compile and tell stories of using local wisdom, recipes of local wisdom, stories from the local wisdom. And this is about enriching the local community. It's about serving the public. And I say, well, Jawa Timur, JTV, you're doing this. And then they open up branches of JAP TV and sebagainya. Itu luar biasa. And at that time, I had the privilege also, it's my eventual visit to meet the president. So the president was also briefing me and talking to me. Amazing vision, right? So this is the transformation. So in essence, in order to communicate trust, we must have CSR transformation. we must have true CSR transformation. Otherwise, we'll be communicating lies. We are not communicating truthfulness. We are not communicating trust. But ladies and gentlemen, yeah, if you are listening to this, if you're forced into a situation to tell a lie, a big lie, you still have a choice to stay silent, to speak the truth, or to resign, right? You always have the choice. And if the lie is big enough to hurt people, right, you must think about this ethically. So don't just be communication professionals, be an ethical professional, professional communicators, right, who champion the good, to champion the right principles. And this is what CSR is about, being socially responsible communicators, socially responsible business practitioners, socially responsible people who uphold missions and corporate purposes. And this is the essence of CSR. So thank you very much. I'll adjourn that first.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reevany, for the interesting talk regarding the transformative CSR and communicating trust in CSR. So I believe that all of the audiences are waiting their moment to ask questions to Dr. Reevany. But before we move to the question and answer session, I ask all participants, all audiences to turn on the camera because we're going to take photo together. Kepada para peserta, kami harapkan untuk menyalakan kamera karena kita akan melakukan sesi foto bersama dengan Dr. Reevany. Jadi kami tunggu dalam hitungan 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oke. Ada 34 participants, jadi teman-teman boleh ya. Ini baru ada sekitar 9 gitu.
Some of the people I recognize here too. So
yes. Okay. There are only 10 people. Oh no, only 14 people ya. Ada lagi kira-kira oke. Okay, everyone, please give your best smile. Berikan senyum terindah. Oke, mari bersedekah ya di bulan puasa. Yang tersenyum. Oke. 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more. 3, 2, 1.
Satu angkat tangan dulu.
Okay, boleh jempolnya. Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much. Just like what Dr. Reevany mentioned, that CSR is talking about responsibility, that companies have to take their responsibility. But ironically, up to now, there are some social conditions that breaks our heart, especially close to our hometown, close to maybe for us as practitioners, some places close to our companies, there are still some places that have a poor condition. Therefore, transformative CSR is needed, ladies and gentlemen, that transformative CSR starts within the intention of the company, the purpose of the company, why the company or organization exists. And especially the transformative CSR is also related to the people, process, product, portfolio, and also how the company tries to communicate the CSR itself to the public. One of the essence of CSR is being socially responsible to communicators. That when we talk about trust, it is starts with how the company builds its truth to the public. So we're moving on to the question and answer, Dr. Reevany. The first question is from our very own student, Mrs. Widya. Her question is, as we know that we are in COVID-19 pandemic, and then if we talk about CSR, of course, it is related with effective communication, because although we have a good program of CSR, if it is not balanced by effective and good communication, then it will be ineffective. So the question is how to communicate trust and transformation CSR in the COVID-19 pandemic, in the pandemic era. Thank you.
Let me understand that question. As we know that, and then we talk about CSR, of course, related with effective communication. Although we have a good program, if not balanced, effective, that will
useless.
Useless.
Oh, okay. All right. The idea of being socially responsible is about, if you're talking about communication per se, in the context of not having, you have the bad as well as the good, then you communicate both. You say this is, you say, well, this is what we aim for, but this is what we have so far. Right? So you communicate truthfully that way. As long as you're being truthful, you're being socially responsible. Right? And if the moment we are not truthful, we are not socially responsible. So, and sometimes when we convey the truth and people say, okay, I'm willing to take the chance. I'm okay. I'm okay with that goodness of that product, of that process, of that house, or whatever, right? Because some people have different needs. Some people have, and they have certain priorities in their purchases. And even though with those weaknesses, they're still willing to buy, or they're still willing to trust, right, within. But if we hide the weaknesses, we hide the negatives, and eventually people find out, right? One, it is not strategic. Secondly, it's not ethical, and then that's probably the most important thing, right? It's not ethical, right? And if you want to be the bluebird of taxis, then we got to be truthful, right? That's the power of socially responsible. At the end, the right will win. At the end, yeah. If you believe that God is just, you must believe that right is ultimately a winning formula. I'm not sure I'm answering your question. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Reevany. Hope it answers your question. Yeah, Ibu Widya. Okay. She sent love to this room. Okay. Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Jay Sharma from Sanpris. His question is, what are good or most effective ways of narrowing the gap between shareholder priorities for profit and the public good? For example, is external benchmarking, fair trade, laws and regulations, citizen shareholder activism, government business, and also SDGs partnerships. Thank you, Jay.
Okay. All right. Okay, Jay, that's a very good question. As Jay he has actually worked as a counselor in London himself, so he's back. Yes. Now it depends on what particular goal are we talking about. But this is a general question, so I will answer it in a general way as well. It requires an integrated approach. But that said, because integrated approach sometimes doesn't mean anything at all. That said, I do see that CSR a business-led CSR approach will fail, because business-led CSR approach often caters to the needs and the interests of business, right? So government must come in. So the legal framework must be there to regulate. Oftentimes, businesses do not want to over-regulate themselves. That's why one of the reasons CSR, the Global Reporting Initiative was initiated. Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, by the way. Those of you in corporate com, you must know this, because there's in companies right now, they have two reports, big companies actually. They have two reports. One is the financial report. The other one is the sustainability report or corporate citizenship report, or CSR report, whatever you call it, right? So this CSR report, one of the standards of the world, the world standards, is based on what's called GRI, Global Reporting Initiative. Right? I'm a GRI certified, but I'm not a consultant, so I don't do consulting work. Basically, I study it so that I can critique it. So certified. So what happens with this type of certification is that companies will have the tendency, right, to come up with regulation or self-regulating mechanism that benefits them, that serves their interest. Oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes that will happen. So we need to have other forces to come in, right? And namely government must come in. And government is a weird thing, right? It depends on, that's why it's called a state. It depends on how we negotiate the government. So the LSM, the NGOs must come in and be pressure group to the government. In order for the government to pressure the companies to work in a certain way, right? Companies like tobacco companies would not forego their cigarette advertising, right? Unless the government goes in and make it a law, right? Just like Malaysia, that did not happen until the government came in, right? And people say, no way, people reduce the number of smokers. And no way, man, we have activists, you know, the white hair guy, long hair, what's his name? Indonesia Lawyers Club itu sering activists itu. We believe in smoking, that kind of thing, right? But when you reduce the advertising, naturally the numbers will drop, right? But the companies will not do it voluntarily. So government must come in. So the integrated approach, the answer is the integrated approach with a strong legal regulatory mechanism. And at the back, being monitored by the watchdog, the NGOs as the watchdogs. That, I think, that's a big question in the general way.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Reevany. And also, hope it helps Jay Sharma for the question. Thank you so much, Jay. Okay. Jay Sharma has a supplementary question. His question is, can we trust companies? Okay.
Can we trust companies? I mean, it depends on how the companies are being established and what the basis of the company is. There's a difference between Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and the one who sell bakso, rawon setan, or sate klopo di Ondong, or the rawon kakleto di Taman Bungkul. There's a difference between that the McDonald's and the bakso and the burgers, and there's a big difference. The big companies tend to be much more distant, and they tend to be less trustworthy if we talk about trusting wise. But they are much more powerful in communicating the message. So eventually, they will say, well, whatever we do, people still go to McDonald's, people still buy Coke, people still, you know, Samporna, right? So Yeah, I guess I'm answering your question there, right?
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Reevany. Dear participants, do you have any other questions? Because we have plenty of times until 5 p.m. yeah, or 6 p.m. in Malaysia.
Yeah. What time do you breakfast over there? Jam berapa berbukanya?
5:26.
5:26. 26, which is to us 6:26. Oh, I got to fly there to Surabaya because
Okay.
we breakfast at 7:26. 7:26, which means 6:26 in Surabaya. Jadi kalau mau berbuka lebih awal tuh harus
terbang ke Surabaya.
Iya, kita ke sana. Tapi karantina 2 minggu.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions? Okay, I think Jay's question concludes our meeting, Dr. Reevany, that finally our guest lecture has come to an end. But before closing this guest lecture, we would like Dr. Reevany to deliver a closing statement regarding our guest lecture today.
Oh, I didn't know. It's the first time I have a closing statement, making a legal case. My contention has been like this, that many companies begin with a good heart. A lot of companies begin with a good heart. But as they grow bigger and bigger and larger, they forget their mission, forget their purpose, right? And that's actually a sad thing. And eventually, the idea of profit maximization takes over and becomes the purpose of the organization, becomes the more important aspect of the organization. They lose sight of the good-heartedness, the golden heart that they have. And that is where companies become socially irresponsible. Right? So what we see is it's no longer corporate social responsibility. We see corporate social irresponsibility. And the worst part is they have, the bigger the company, the bigger the resource that they have to use communication to blind us, to do greenwashing. So these are the terms you need to know. Greenwashing, to show that they are doing good and to hide what harm that they are inflicting on the society. One of the biggest, in fact, the biggest scholarship granting company in Indonesia, right? Paling banyak kasih beasiswa itu is a tobacco company, right? But and they target the youth. And Indonesia is #1 in Southeast Asia, having cancer. Right? In Malaysia is #1 obesity, right? And Indonesia is #1 cancer. So abang dan adik itu sama-sama jago sakit gitu kan. But tobacco companies, they have good CSR reports. Who does the CSR reports? It's the corporate communication people who do the CSR reports. So we got to rethink about this, right? And I have questioned them before, and then we must question them. And I appeal to you all, scholars, right? You all scholars, right? To think about the idealism, to think about the higher purpose that we are serving, and make that a more important part of your profession. Right? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reevany, for the closing statement. Before closing this guest lecture, the organizing committee would like to thank Associate Professor Dr. Mohammad Reevany Bustami for giving us insight in terms of transformative CSR. And Dr. Reevany, we really hope to see you soon in Indonesia, especially in our university, Universitas Airlangga. And finally, for all participants, thank you so much for the participation. We do hope that this guest lecture could bring inspiration and positive impact to all of us. And let us hope that this guest lecture is not the last collaboration. Maybe Universitas Airlangga and University Science Malaysia could do any other collaborations, or maybe we could do a joint degree between UNAIR and also USM, especially for the postgraduate. And maybe I could be the first student in there. Okay. Finally, that's all our guest lecture today. Thank you so much, everyone, for the presence. We do hope that all of us are healthy and safe during this pandemic. Have a good day, and also let's wait until the break. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you again.
Yes,
See you again sometime. In the future, We all look forward to it. Thank you.
Come to Penang, Pulau Pinang. Come to Penang. It's just 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours. Direct from Surabaya to Penang.
Okay. That's a good plan. Hopefully, it's going to be realized. It can be realized soon. Okay. Hi, everyone.
It's a port city. Just like Surabaya, Penang is also port city. It's also the second largest city, just like Surabaya as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Same character, right? Outspoken and open and like Surabayanese people,
True. Yeah.
Okay, then. Thank you all. See you again sometimes. Hopefully soon we can collaborate with USM in other collaborations. Okay. Bye-bye. I will leave the meeting room now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mas Umar.
My pleasure, Doctor.
Huh?